This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And you're listening to Python's Paradise, your film and music show. And this is your host, Greg Gilbert, a.k.a. the Python Hyena. And folks, I have a stunning young lady on the phone with me today that was brought to my attention by Steve Joyner. And, well, I could say many things to introduce her, but she's kind of all across the board when it comes to filmmaking. Like, she's involved in pretty much every aspect. She's like an octopus on a set. I'm going to give you, folks, the lovely, the beautiful Britney Meeks. How you do, Britney?
I'm well, thank you. That was a lovely introduction.
Yeah, well, I think the octopus thing is quite right because you do have many titles.
I don't know if I've ever received being called an octopus and took it as a compliment. So yeah, that was very well done.
Well, you kind of got to have multiple arms because you've done acting, you've done. I guess you've done stuff on the crew. You've done the makeup. I guess you've done stunts. I guess. Like, is there anything you haven't done?
I'm sure there has. You know, there's so many aspects to film. I have always had a perspective that you need to know how to sweep the floors before you can run a company. So I definitely started from sweeping the floors, and I've made myself progress through and learn the whole way. And at this point, I've started my own production company and going forward. So it's constant learning. Anybody who tells me they know everything about film, I either am in awe or I don't believe them. It's hard to say which one it is, though. So,
give us a little bit of your background.
Oh, I don't know if my background can be considered little. In film or everything?
Well, give us your background and then move into film.
Okay. I'll try to make it short. When I was very young, I knew that I was going to be a marine biologist and a photographer and a writer for National Geographic and a neurosurgeon. So I missed the princess phase and went straight into all of that. And I was scuba certified when I was 14. I had a plan, but circumstances occurred and that changed. My next goal was working with primates, which I did do. I was able. It was amazing. I drank hot chocolate with
people or actual primates.
Actual primates. Yeah, both, but definitely the real ones. I did. I drank hot chocolate with an orangutan every morning before work. It was amazing. But mostly aside from that, I worked business. I worked sales. I worked in financing. And went into the medical profession. I worked in cardiology for several years and then went into medical equipment sales and realized that I needed the big something. I didn't even know what it was, but I knew I wasn't happy, and I knew whatever it was out there. So I left medical sales equipment, and a few months later I found myself on my very first film set. And it was cold and miserable, and I was in heels, and I had to pretend like it was spring, and it was a long day, it was a long weekend, and I have never been in that situation and been so happy and so in love with where I was. It was absolutely wonderful. I would do it again. I have done it again. I loved it. So it just skyrocketed from there, and within a few months, I was on the set of Captain America, and a few months later, I was behind the camera, doing direction, doing makeup, doing all kinds of things. Script writing, contributing. I won't claim to be a script writer, but contributing to storylines, and here I am. I have amazing films that I have had the absolute pleasure to work with the creators of those, and we're developing and moving forward, and hopefully they'll be seen in theaters very soon. So yeah, that's the really, really quick run through of everything.
Before we talk about the films, I was kind of caught on the orangutan bit. They
Yeah.
like hot chocolate, do they?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. And I used to I'd drop a Hershey Kiss down in the bottom of the cup so it would melt. So, and I would do it, I'm not a big fan of hot chocolate personally. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't seek it out. But, I would have a cup and he would have a cup. And by the time, his would be gone very fast. And he would actually, it was a styrofoam cup that he would very meticulously break in half. So it was literally half of the cup from top to bottom. And he would hold it so I could pour mine into it and he could get more. So, it was wonderful. No, being around the primates and I was around them in multiple circumstances. I was with primates at a couple different places, and some were rescued, some were my job interview consisted of a 600 plus pound gorilla charging at me so they could see how I'd react to it. It was wonderful. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah, it was, and then at a different location, I worked with some animals that had been rescued that came from deplorable situations and circumstances. And, when you get to be around any animal, I've grown up around animals. That's the other half of me is working with and doing all different types of rescue scenarios. And some of these apes, when you look at them and you can tell that they're just unhappy, and then you have the opportunity to work with them and try different things, and then all of a sudden they start interacting, and all of a sudden they lighten up, and their personalities lighten up, and then they develop trust towards you. Oh my gosh, it's that's literally, I have no words for it. That's my only reaction. It's pure, just yeah, no words. It's perfect. I don't know. It's just absolutely perfect. And obviously, in a perfect world, they would have never have been in those situations to begin with. But to give them a little bit of ease and to be a part of that has been a highlight of my life in multiple species of animals. So.
Yeah, I read somewhere the orangutan is the third most intelligent animal on the planet.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to put that onto the, if you judge a fish on how he climbs a tree type thing.
Actually,
the
top five, number 5 was ravens.
Yes, they're amazing.
Yep. Number 4 was elephants.
Yes.
Number 3 was orangutan. Number 2 was the bottlenose dolphin. And number 1 in your territory, chimpanzees.
Wonderful animals.
Yep.
They are. I actually just recently saw a study where they taught bumblebees how to bring a ball into a goal, like a soccer goal, for a reward. And they would actually teach other bumblebees how to do it so they could get their sugar water. I'm a huge fan of the bumble. I don't know. I'm a fan of all of them. Animals, it's like they don't surprise me, but they amaze me.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're amazing.
Well, you had mentioned Captain America: Winter Soldier, and I think between the 3 Captain America films, I got to say the first one I thought was the weakest one. I think that Winter Soldier and the most recent one I thought were really, really, really great. And, of course, Winter Soldier was the second one. And I guess you were in a museum scene. Tell us, how did you get on the Captain America Winter Soldier?
Cattle calls. Which, sometimes you'll be able to hear, they'll say, it's an open casting call. And I lovingly refer to them as cattle calls, because you literally line up. They herd you into a room. Everybody fills out paperwork. They take your picture, and then they send you out, and you're done. And I believe, and if my numbers are inaccurate, I apologize, but I do believe that there were over like 400,000 people that in different locations and different calls that came out for Winter Soldier, and they only ended up utilizing like 5,000 or 6,000 people, and I got to be one of them. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't question it, because it was definitely an amazing experience. Specifically for the time, it was the third film set I had ever been on. So even that alone, it was outstanding. And to be able to have just recently found something that I am so in love with and have such a passion for so early on, and then to automatically be on such a large production and such a large set with, the crew, and which everybody was amazing, but just to watch how such a large set comes together and how it works. And I'm a huge observation person. I acknowledge that there are opportunities to learn all around. You just have to be ready and willing to see them. So I did. On my way up there, I had decided, I'm like, I'm going to learn everything I can possibly learn. You know what I mean? And I tried to take the most from it, and it did. It was exciting. It was outstanding. It was very relaxing. I found myself not nervous. A lot of people would come they keep a lot of, everybody in a holding room, and people would come back and they were like, did you see Chris Evans? I don't know. Did you see him? And when I did go up, I was up right where he was. And, it was lovely to be able to see how people work, and to see somebody, as successful as Captain America was right off the bat. And for Chris Evans to have been in that role and to see him do all of those things. Like I said, to be on the third set ever and to be watching this level of professionalism, it was very exciting for me, and it sealed the deal for me. I lovingly refer to it as that's when my monster came out, where it was like, oh yeah, I want this. I want to have this. I want to do this every day. I want to, and it wasn't just the film part, like it was after they said cut, that even that part of it was, I don't know, it just got me. And like I said, it did, to be able to see such level of professionalism and so many people working together for one common goal. You think about it, you have hundreds of people in various areas working for something that is happening within, a 6x8 screen square. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like all of these people come together just so that little spot is perfect. And it's amazing. I don't know. It was outstanding.
So how close did you get to Chris Evans?
For most of when I was on the set, I was roughly about 2 to 3 feet away from him consistently.
That film also had Samuel L. Jackson, Robert Redford, and Scarlett Johansson, of course, playing Black Widow. Did you see them?
No, they were not there that day on set. I know somebody had asked me about Robert Redford. I'm like, I look forward to the day where I can give you a Robert Redford story. And I don't want to discredit. I was on set with Captain America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do absolutely look forward to be able to work with and experience those other professionals, absolutely, and all of them would be a dream come true, and I have every anticipation and every expectation to work to a point where that is the possibility. So
yeah, in the same year that you was in that, you also did a film called 50 to 1.
That was my first film. Yeah,
tell us about that.
50 to 1 is based on, so here, I'm in Kentucky,
Okay.
and we have the Kentucky Derby.
Okay.
And Mine That Bird was a Derby winner.
Okay.
And this group, they actually came from New Mexico. I believe New Mexico. If I'm wrong, I apologize to the people of 50 to 1 and to Mine That Bird. But the group came from there. The film started there. Obviously, they were doing the story following this horse and the people who owned this horse, and ultimately they ended up at the Kentucky Derby, which brought them here in Kentucky and at Churchill Downs, which is our historical racetrack. So that's when they did the casting call to have people come in. We needed they needed people to be at the Derby, and that's why I said the day that Mind That Bird was in the Derby, it was a little bit not a regular warm day. Usually it is a little bit cooler, but it was a beautiful warm day. So everybody who showed up at the Derby were in their tank tops and their, beautiful dresses and, all of these things. Well, the day we were filming, it was about 45 degrees and cloudy and windy, so windy. It was terrible. But you still have to make it look real. And so, yeah, we all had our coats and our jackets tucked at our feet. And when it was action, we were warm and sunny and loving life. And when it was cut, we were all huddled together like we were like a bunch of penguins trying to survive the winter. It was terrible. So, but it was exciting. And that was the very first time that I ever saw, on film, when the horse runs by, everybody watches the horse as it goes by. There was no horse on set when I was there. You know what I mean? There's no horses running by. There was a man, God love him, with a stick that kept running back and forth so everybody would follow it in unison, and he had to go back and run back and do it again, and that's when I learned what movie magic really was, and it was exciting to me, very, very exciting. So that was 50-1. That's what started it all.
And of course, you stuck with it despite the the conditions around you. So
I did.
Hey,
I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it.
And then you did another film called, I apologize if I don't get the title right, Roshambo?
Roshambo.
Okay.
Yeah, that project was done. David Brewer, who he's a lovely man. He's a local to Kentucky. Incredibly creative man. He's very, very lovely. He's very creative, and he did this project that was based on professional paper, rock, scissors competitions.
Okay. All right.
No, and you know what, and thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to actually be able to speak his name. He is definitely one of the people that is putting in the work, and he is very creative, and he has a good vision, and he definitely has the passion. So there are quite a few local projects and local people that I have been able to work on, and whether or not those go into the theaters or go into where somebody sees them, that it's still a process for everybody, and everybody's at different levels. And you think about even Steven Spielberg started somewhere.
Yeah,
and
the duel.
All the notable people and the notable actors. Very, very, very few of the actors out there just woke up one morning and became an A-list actor. A lot of them did do, your local projects, and hey, I have a camera, let's try to figure this out. And there are different levels of the independent projects, and it's a compliment to me for these individuals to allow me to, in any capacity, whether it be in front of or behind the camera, to help be a part of their progression towards their dream. I absolutely love it and embrace it greatly.
Yeah, here we have the same thing. We've got local filmmakers. A lot of projects don't hit the mainstream, and I think it's unfortunate, but we do have some good independent filmmakers out there putting in an effort.
Right.
We had a filmmaker here named Jim Milani, who did a movie called All the Wrong Reasons, which was one of the last projects that Corey Monteith was in. And it played here at the film festival, and I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with that movie.
Right.
But it was not a wide release. And I find there's a lot of movies that are hurt by marketing. Last
Absolutely.
year, I saw a movie for the first time 9 times in the theater. I saw a movie called Everybody Wants Some, directed by Richard Linklater, and I loved it. I went to it 9 times.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I've done 2 interviews from the film, and I hope to get more. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that was a movie that got me with the characters. I was able to relate. I felt like I was there with them, which is great when I can feel
That's
like
a huge compliment to them. That's amazing. That's wonderful.
yeah, and the music soundtrack. The music
Wow.
soundtrack, I ordered it off Amazon. It's just, I remember when all this music first came out, and
Hmm.
I loved it. And it's like, it didn't do real well at the box office. Now, I believe it will eventually become a cult film.
Right.
But right now, I'm going to tell you a little something about me. We
Okay.
got 3 big films playing up at the mall right now. One is Logan, one is Beauty and the Beast, and the other is Kong Skull Island. You want me to tell you one thing they all have in common?
What's that?
I haven't been to any of them.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're bad. I've heard Logan's
No.
great, but
Right.
I was more interested to go up and see Goon: Last of the Enforcers.
Right.
I just saw.
Well,
Yeah.
I do have when I started my production company, the absolute goal, I feel as though there is so much talent and so much creativity and so much just heart and soul in independent filmmakers. And I feel that my absolute goal is to give them the platform they deserve. And to be able to take this brilliant concept and this brilliant idea that needs to be seen. You like right now, and I'm an 80s baby. So, I look at, they remade Pete's Dragon, and they remade oh gosh, what is the movie? It eludes me. There's so many remakes at this time, and I get it. That's fine. These are all films that we loved growing up. But then I stop and I'm like, you know what? I could have made 7 new films and new concepts and new ideas with the energy that went into this one remake. And I do. I've heard many people. I don't go to the theaters anymore because you're not seeing anything new. You don't see anything new, and I, to an extent, I get that. I am a huge fan of film, obviously, and I love both spectrums of it. I do love those quote unquote blockbuster films, and I do love seeing the faces and the names that everybody can recognize. I do love that, and I respect them wholeheartedly. I don't think that those need to go away. I think there's absolutely a place for them, but I do. You hear, and I could be very wrong because I'm not a part of that level of filmmaking at this point, but you hear that there's a circle. If you're not in the circle, then you're not getting the attention, and you're not getting those type of things. I don't think that's completely true. I don't, but I think that there is some truth to it. But I do. I have been able to meet in my progress through film. I have been able to meet so many people and hear so many ideas and people that are putting the work in. It's not just you're standing on the street and you're like, yeah, I work in film, and somebody goes, oh, I've had a great idea for film, and some of those are good ideas. But, these are people who are doing the scripts and doing the edits and getting the crew together and getting cast together and doing all that they can to make sure that the cast and crew get their due respect. And I don't know, I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about people who are in love with what they do and are working hard to make it happen, even though it seems that all odds are against them. Because unfortunately, there are days in films where that's the truth. I've heard what we consider A-list celebrities say that it seems like the odds are against them, trying to get into roles. And you see actors that we all recognize, and all of a sudden you go, where'd they go? what happened to them?
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. I'm like, these are people who are still working for something that they love. And I feel that everybody deserves that. I believe that if you have a goal, you should be able to have it. If you're willing to, if you're still doing the work and still making it happen. And so, yeah, that is a very big goal of mine is to create that platform and offer that. Bring in the new ideas,
Yep.
So, I don't know. I love it.
Yeah. I did see the Pete's Dragon remake. It's interesting you bring that up because Pete's Dragon, the original, came out in 1977. I was born in 72, so I remember the 70s a little bit. But Pete's Dragon was the very first movie I'd seen at the drive-in.
Nice.
When I was young. Yeah, we don't have drive-ins here anymore, but I'm going to say, strangely enough, the remake actually wasn't bad because they did not remake the same story. They actually told a different story.
Different story.
I actually appreciated that.
Pete's Dragon is, don't laugh at me, one of my favorite movies ever.
I'm not going to laugh at you. I think it's fantastic.
And I still watch it, and I still sing all the songs. And I love it, and it makes me happy. That is like my...
Watching Helen Reddy kick the beer mugs off the bar when she's doing that number.
Oh, my gosh, it's so beautiful. And it's oh, my gosh. But, when I watched the new Pete's Dragon, and I did. I admit I'm not proud, but I went into it with that's not my movie. Where are the songs at? That's not my movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I did, I said to my sister, because we watched it together, I said, you know what, I would love this movie if it wasn't called Pete's Dragon.
I see your point there, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's probably very unfair because, you know what, it was beautifully done. It was very beautifully done.
But I like the fact it's not technically a remake because they're not even telling the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know, but I want the lighthouse. I want those things. I want the songs. I want I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not proud. I'm not proud because I do have absolute appreciation and respect for the film, the new version of that film. I really, really do. There's no denying that there was definitely a thought process in that story, and the characters are beautiful, and the CGI was lovely. Everything about it was very, very, very well done, and I do have the utmost respect for that. But I wanted to sing along. I really did.
Yeah, I hear ya. Yep, but. Yeah, well, I that Pete's Dragon, though, that was my first drive-in experience. I think I might have been 5 years old.
It's one of the first films where they put cartoon characters, animated characters with real-life characters.
Yeah, that would more than likely be correct.
That and Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins did it, yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, Mary Poppins.
Yeah, the penguins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, another movie that I absolutely sing along with. Even in my late 30s, I absolutely will turn into a 6-year-old child in front of the TV when either of those films are on.
So you worked with animals. Did you ever have penguins bring you, bring you your ice water?
I regrettably, at this point in my life, have yet the opportunity to work with penguins. There's not a lot I have not worked with, but penguins, unfortunately, I don't know, it's probably safe. I think that penguins, I have a soft spot because I think they're hilarious. So,
well, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit? They were delivering shots with rocks in them.
Mm-hmm. yeah, on the rocks. Very literal. Yes. Another wonderful movie. Absolutely.
Yep.
I rewatched that as an adult. It's a very dark movie.
I just interviewed Joanna Cassidy from that movie as well, talking to her about Blade Runner, and she was also in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. She wished that that her role was a little larger than it was, and I can see her point.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You also did a movie called Grieving.
Yes.
Were you grieving?
No, I don't. No. Another wonderful independent. Are you going to go down? Don't do all of them. Oh man, I actually Grieving. I had the opportunity to. I was part of production on that side. I was not in front of the camera for that film, so. And I did, like I said, I've had the opportunity, and I did very, very early on to be on both sides. And, there were a couple films that I was on both sides of the camera in the film. And I have a whole new respect for the individuals that do that. That is to put out a decent film and to be your own judge.
You mean like Woody Allen?
Woody Allen, Tom Hanks does that. Chris Evans has done that. To direct and to be on the production, not just the crew, but the actual.
Yeah, but with Woody Allen, you get to tell your shrink after.
Right. You know what? I probably needed one a few times. I probably would have. It's very rough. I got to the point, I said, I think we need to recast a role. And they said, which one? And I told them, and they're like, that's your role. I was like, yeah, I know. I don't think she's right for the part.
No, the reason I was going down through your credits, because we live in kind of in a day of Netflix, and I figure a lot of these films, like, I haven't seen before, and I figured, if we put them out there, when this interview goes out, would allow them to catch a little bit of attention. I know you have a couple that are in post-production or whatnot. I mean, you can choose whether you want to talk about them or not. I know there's Hitman Conspiracy and there's The Quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all, again, amazing independent filmmakers that are working hard towards their goal. And again, I am truly, truly grateful to have been a part of their process. And I'm grateful for them to have allowed me to be. And I wish amazing things for all of these individuals. And, I've seen a lot of struggles, and I've been a part of struggles. You unfortunately, with any film, but a lot of times in independent film, life happens. And a lot of people in most circumstances, you're still living your regular 9 to 5, and you're still trying to put together something that, on a regular basis takes, 18, 20-hour days. So everybody who is working so hard to try to pull that together and to make it happen, it's heartbreaking and very frustrating when things seemingly fall apart. And I believe that is part of the process. I believe that there's a lot of learning to do. It definitely separates pardon the expression, but the men from the boys. Mm-hmm. It can be very easy to get discouraged and to get frustrated and to do a project that could potentially be an amazing project for $10 or $15 million, and you realize that you are digging pocket change trying to make something happen. And there are people who are still pushing and still making that happen despite all of that. And yes, I applaud everyone who is doing that. I encourage them to keep going. And if you love something, yes. Who was it? Was it Bob Marley that said that everything that you love will break your heart. You just have to choose what is worth it. Mm-hmm. And I think that those that are passionate about film, it absolutely will break your heart. It absolutely will, and it will test you, and it will bring you to the brink where you want to throw your hands up and say, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's obviously not meant to happen. I've heard that a lot. It's obviously not meant to happen. And, and then there are the people who wake up the next morning and they still do it.
Well,
and
you
still go
look
do it.
you look at a guy like Ben Affleck, for example. He's done some real shit, like Geely, Pearl Harbor, Bounce. That's just three garbage films that come to mind, and
Well,
but and then now he's got like Argo,
right.
and The Town, and I'm under the impression now that I think he did those shit films so he could muster up some cash so he could do his own project. He wanted to get
Which is
back to that Goodwill
possible.
Hunting.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, my immediate response to that is, you know, some of it, there are films that I have been in that I will not lie. There is parts of me that I'm like, oh gosh, can we make that go away? You know what I mean? 'Cause you
Yeah.
don't want that to show up later on in your career. But it's still an experience, and a lot of the times, and I can't speak for Ben Affleck. I can't speak for many of those notable professionals, but I mean, you've seen people do interviews and they're like, "We have your first commercial," and it's awful and cheesy and so ridiculous, but it's still you can be in a terrible film. You can produce a terrible film. And everybody will have an opinion about it, but that doesn't mean that you didn't come out better because of it. And somebody else's vision. I have helped people with films that I personally may not have been like, oh, this is amazing, but I still support the people doing the film. Just because I don't care for it, and I'm not going to go, buy the DVD and sit at home on a Sunday rainy day and watch it. But that doesn't mean that I don't support somebody else's vision and support their process. And I do. I personally, I am a huge fan of what is frequently called bad film. I love it. Fight films. Oh man, I love them.
Oh, gee, my first interview back in April of 2015 was with a guy who was known famously for a bad film. In fact, it's one of those films so bad I had to buy it, and I watch it just because it's so bad. And I'm talking about The Room and Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and it's a
wonderful.
horrible film, but yet that's part of what makes it so funny. I can't watch Geely or Pearl Harbor again, but I
But
can't.
you know what? There are people who can, and I'll tell you, Pearl Harbor. They just recently were playing that on TV. I mean, it still has an audience. There is still an audience,
Oh,
and it may
jeepers.
not have been a big audience, but it's still there. That whole thing. It's in theater. A bad play makes more money than a good one. So,
I don't know.
I-
Pearl
yeah,
Harbor was
I
one
don't
of those
know.
films. I came out and I was just angry when I saw Pearl Harbor because it's like
Oh.
they turned the whole thing into a romantic spectacle. It's like it's nowhere near as the masterpiece of an Apocalypse Now or Inglourious Bastards or Platoon, movies that were much better war movies than. I hated the
Well,
spectacle.
I do think that Pearl Harbor tried to go on an individual, personalized. This is what was happening in my life. Not, I think that there are a lot of films. There are a lot of films that will take such a circumstance and put it almost in the background. And don't get me wrong. I have a project that's in my folder for the future that is a World War II based film that holds a very, very, very sensitive and close place in my heart. But I do appreciate a different perspective. It's just a different concept and a different idea. I would not have put Pearl Harbor with like Apocalypse Now and Platoon and even Saving Private Ryan.
There you
I mean
go.
they did use a very, very different basis of film, but I don't know. I think that if I think you have to not like some film. I think you do. Because if you loved every film that ever came out, film wouldn't be so exciting. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know, but you know what? I'm not as bitter as you are against Pearl Harbor.
Actually, I just hated the fact that they took a real life war and they turned it into a romantic spectacle. No, they advertised it as a war movie, and what we
Yeah.
got was almost a 3 hour love triangle. And I was like, this is garbage.
Well, but you know what? I can say my grandmother, perfect example. My grandmother fell in love during the war, and it was with a man that was not somebody that her family would have accepted. And they, after my grandmother passed away, and she was in her 90s, and after she passed away, we went and were cleaning out the house and going through things, and she still had letters and notes and pictures of the man she was in love with during the war. And since she couldn't be with him, she actually ended up marrying who ultimately was my grandfather. And so it is. I see parts of. I mean, people have those stories. People have the stories that is not based around the war. It happened during the war. But I had the opportunity this past summer. A group working with the Discovery Channel, they were interviewing the last existing World War II veterans, and I had the opportunity to go and see 8 of them that were close to me, within 6 hours of me, and I got to sit and talk to them, and not one of them talked about the war. They were telling me all the things that were going on, and one man had met his wife in the entire time that he was in the war, like active, all the horror stories that he was a part of. That he was writing love letters to the woman who was going to soon be his wife. So I see that. Whether or not it was, everybody will have opinion on how it's done, but I think that the reason why it didn't offend me so much is because I've heard those time-based stories, during the war, this was happening. And these were the things that I mean, it's real life. I don't know if it was completely real life, but it could have been. I don't know. It could have been.
Here's a question I have for you. Who would you like to work with?
Oh, heavens. My list is so long. I literally have an Excel spreadsheet with wish list actors and producers, and there's so many. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm on the spot because if ever I had the opportunity for any one of them to hear, I feel like I would be like the Oscar speech where you just want to throw out as many names as possible. So if anybody was to hear it, and you know what I mean, I have such a huge respect for so many actors and actresses and directors and producers and even, crew. Oh my gosh, like, line producers and unit production managers and set designers. Oh yeah, I would lose the rest of the evening trying to in some way verbalize that in a manner where if anybody heard it, they would take me seriously. So.
How did you come to meet Steve Joyner, the guy that kind of put us together here?
Steve, who is absolutely lovely, by coincidence and social media, yeah. We crossed paths, and Steve, who is absolutely lovely, just kind of reached out. It's great to connect. How are you? And I am very much so the person that is, hey, how's it going? Tell me your entire life story. So
that's kind of how I encountered him too.
Yeah, Steve Joyner is definitely the person that, he still wants people to find success and to be able to be successful, and I am so grateful to him for all of that, and unfortunately you don't see that a lot. A lot of people feel like they're in competition, and I am not that person. I do want everyone to succeed, and I want everybody to be able to realize their dream and so it is nice to be able to. I have met amazing people over the years that have a similar perspective, and even if they don't, they realize that there are people who support them. I helped a woman, absolutely lovely, Amy, up in New York, who is a female director, and she is absolutely stunning and creative and stubborn and hard-headed and everything that she needs to be. And she just finished a short film to prepare for the feature length that it's A Day in the Life of Who. She actually sent me a message today. They finished post-production. Everything's ready. So I look forward to, being able to work with her more. But like I said, I've met so many amazing people and supportive people and so many people willing to work together and go out of their way or, step away from their own circumstances to give a leg up. And that's priceless to me, regardless of what the profession is. That is absolutely priceless, and I think we need more of that. And I mean, even I have 2 projects now that I'm working as a producer on that are true life stories. They're amazing, and the gentlemen that lived these life stories that came across my path. And even they, a few times, they're like, this is amazing, this is wonderful, and the connections that they have been able to make just because they had this life circumstance, and oh my gosh, no, it's wonderful. But yeah, Steve, I'll go back full circle here. Steve is definitely, he has definitely been that person for me, and I look forward to the day where I can hopefully repay that and express how grateful I am for him and for his friendship and his support while I go through my process. So,
do you have like a web page or any charities or anything that you want to plug on here?
My web page. Well, I was going to say at this point it's in development, so depend upon. It is Griffin is the company. It's Gryphon.
Okay.
It's Griffin Entertainment. The website is, it'll link from Griffin Entertainment, but it's griffinvisual.com. And that has, current projects that I am working production with and looking to move forward. And each of those projects will have, we have multiple charities that we're trying to work with and support, each of our independent communities and communities as a whole. So yeah, there are tons of opportunities there, whether it be to submit a project and see if that is a project that we can make happen. Also to contribute to the projects. I do have it open that you can be a small investor. So many people hear about large investments for film, and so I've tried to try a little bit of a different avenue where you can do small investment and hopefully have success with that and move on to larger investments that is beneficial, and to be able to play a part in whether they be local or just to reach out to people trying to pursue their dreams. So.
Yeah, of course, when I was talking to you and Steve in our 3-way conversation, I brought up a charity that I think I enticed you in.
Yeah.
The Doubtfire Face Challenge that was brought up, of course, when Robin Williams unfortunately had left us for, of course, suicide and depression. And you sounded interested in that.
I said that I would be supportive. Do we call that interested? No, I think it's lovely. I think that to be able to express another avenue of support towards anybody who is in a position where, I'm trying to choose my words. Anytime somebody is in a position where, whether it be depression or any kind of doubt, is prevalent. I absolutely feel that I wish that there was a way to be able to go inside of the mind of anybody in any situation at all that you know they're feeling those type of feelings and just kind of, I don't know, can you give everybody a hug at the same time? I don't know. It's, you know, I have worked extensively. I have several friends that have, you know, been in the military and have witnessed very unfortunate military depression and PTSD, and unfortunately have lost friends as a result of those circumstances. So it's very, very scary, and it's, being on the outside of that is very difficult.
Well, here's one thing I do. When somebody I challenge does a Doubtfire challenge, I donate to one of their charities.
That's lovely.
Yeah. So I thought
tell me in detail, what is the
Doubtfire Face Challenge is for suicide depression. You film yourself taking a pie in the face, and you nominate 3 people. And it could be in support of the American Foundation for Suicide Depression, or in my case, a Canadian. And I'm trying to get the industry involved. I've had a few people that I've interviewed, including somebody from one of the Friday the 13th movies that has taken part.
Lovely.
And with all of them, I have made a donation to one of their charities as well. It's kind of my way of showing appreciation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're up for that, what's your charity?
Oh gosh, I have a long list of them actually. So I'll have to ponder on that. You know, I am very much so, I would think for obvious reasons, a huge supporter of the Jane Goodall Foundation with the primates.
Okay.
I am a huge supporter of, you know, Wounded Warriors and actually the POW MIA group.
Okay.
I do wholeheartedly support and definitely our American soldiers, but I am a huge supporter of military. You know, are you kidding me? The World War II gentleman, the story that I was talking about before, one of the gentlemen involved in that actually joined the Canadian military before the Americans even got involved in World War II. You know, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. So I am definitely one of those people that encourage support. I do love support, and I think that more people need to reach out and do and offer that. So, no, I'm very, very open.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll make a donation to one of those charities if you did the Doubtfire challenge. But I'll leave that up to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do. We've touched base on Facebook. Do I need to? Well, I'll reach out. We'll make it happen.
Sure. Yeah, I can. If you're interested, like I said, and I've made good on all my donations as well. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of my way of showing appreciation, and you know, it's just video.
Well, there are suicide awareness and depression charities.
Yep.
So the donation should go there, I would imagine.
Well, yeah.
That's what we're doing it for, right?
Yeah, it's for awareness for that, but it's also when somebody does one of these videos on my behalf, at my request, I feel like it's a good call on my part to throw a donation at one of their charities. It's kind of it's showing gratitude, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, no, I will find a suicide awareness and prevention charity and express that, and we'll make sure that if a donation is made, that's where it goes.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway, we're just about out of time, but it was wonderful talking to you. You've yeah. And I was going to say before you go, I was wondering if you would do a plug for my show.
To do what?
A plug for my show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just state your name, and my name, of course, is Greg Gilbert, and my show is called Python's Paradise, Python like the snake, and I'm from New Brunswick, Canada.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. You writing that all down?
No, I didn't have a pen. I wasn't ready. I didn't know there was going to be homework or a
Oh.
test. I was like, I didn't know there was going to be a test at the end of the interview. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me. So I know that you're the Python Hyena.
Mm-hmm.
So what? Tell me that's the part that stood out with me. Is that terrible? Does that make me a bad person?
No, just say that. State your name. Just say you're listening to Python's Paradise in New Brunswick, Canada.
Okay.
Okay. You ready?
You want me to go now?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, this is Britney Meeks in Kentucky in the United States, and I am chatting and listening to Greg Gilbert with the Python's Paradise show.
Perfect. You know
I
where...
missed the New Brunswick part.
That's all right. You know where I'm located here? Have you ever
In New Brunswick?
Yeah. Have you ever been up this way?
I have not. Ironically, I've been overseas, but I didn't stay in my same continent and go north. I know that's terrible. That makes me a bad person.
Well, you know, it was wonderful talking to you tonight. If you'd like, I can send you information on the any information I can on the Doubtfire challenge if you wish to do that. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll make good on charity of your choice. And if you got any projects in the future too that you're going to be promoting or any films you're involved in, love to have you back on.
Yeah. Well, like I said, hopefully, you know, the projects that I have now that are absolutely amazing, you know, idealistically, they, you know, we're still in development and moving towards pre-production. So, you know, but they both have books. Both of them have books out that are outstanding. One of them is The Eighth Round by Zeke Wilson. He's a boxer that actually, because of circumstances, in the year 2000, there were 310,000 cases that went in front of the United States federal court, and 41,000 of those were civil rights cases. But his was the only what would be considered a black-on-black discrimination, and that just happened in the year 2000.
Wow.
And the other, Michael Walter, he, you know, from circumstances as a young child, he grew up with addiction and very much so a destructive lifestyle, alcohol and drinking. Actually, before he turned 20, he had been in jail multiple times, had been stabbed, had been shot, a number of things, and he was in a car accident and actually died. They were able to revive him, but he had less than a 5% chance of surviving. He, 2 weeks later, came out of a coma. He was told he would never walk, made a full recovery, and after that had 40 years as a successful stuntman in Hollywood. So he is his book is Hollywood Stuntman Comes Clean, the Mike Walter story, and the other is The Eighth Round by Zeke Wilson. Absolutely wonderful books, and they're both on Amazon to be found, and they will be filmed. You'll be in the theater watching those. So you heard it here first.
Perfect. Well, we have been chatting with Britney Meeks, the lovely, the beautiful Britney Meeks. I express thank you to Steve Joyner for hooking us up. And Britney, it's been lovely. I wish you the best, and hope we'll be seeing you very, very soon.
Yes, thank you again, Greg. It's lovely. Thank you.
Yes, I bid you a good evening, and when this is done, I will definitely send it out to you. I just need your patience on that because it will be a few months.
Absolutely, not a worry at all. But I'll anticipate some more information for your Doubtfire challenge.
Sure, I'll get that out to you.
Great, thank you so much.
You have yourself a good evening, and God bless you.
You as well. Thank you, dear.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.